Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley with Uncommon Roots Homestead. It is the most beautiful, real, like first true fall day here in East Tennessee, and I could not be more like obsessed with this weather. It's a high of 64 today. The low was down to 39 last night. It's supposed to be like 39 tonight. So those might be like a light frost in some areas, depending on the elevation and kind of the microclimate. But here, most of the garden is still alive and well, but we are getting way closer to that first frost. So I'm gonna take you through the garden, show you what's going on. Kevin actually spent a lot of time in the garden this week getting the garlic and onion rows ready to be planted. And he actually planted the onions today. So let's go take a look. Woo, it's bright too. I did go ahead and pick up a couple of seeds. I picked up some more spinach because I planted a whole pack of spinach and nothing came up. So I'm thinking maybe it was a little bit too hot still. So I'm gonna go ahead and try spinach again in one of these beds. And then I picked up some cilantro. We actually saved some cilantro seeds and replanted them, but they came up and then something destroyed them. So we're gonna try that again too. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of unwritten rule when it comes to filming a video that your neighbor has to start mowing their lawn. But my asparagus is good. It's always hard this time of year because when you're in the garden and everything is just so alive and beautiful, it's hard to imagine that, you know, any evening this week, it could drop to the point that all these things just die. And it's good because everything needs a rest. The soil needs rest. We need rest. But it's also sad because look how beautiful this is. So there are some things as I'm walking through the garden that I'm thinking, you know, that I need to do over the next couple of days or weeks. So Kevin got all of the onions planted today. I'll show you what that looks like. Can't really see much because they're already planted, but I'm gonna be working on the garlic tomorrow. Kevin is working on finishing up those beds for me. But there are a couple of things that we actually need to harvest as soon as either right before that first frost or right after. And so those are my ginger, and then these beautiful dahlias, which is so sad to me. I'm kind of trying to push it to the very last moment because they're just so stunning, but I do want to harvest the tubers. So I want to do that before that first frost, or at least the first hard frost. So there are different types of frost. I mean, you can see frost on the grass when it's 35, 36, 37 degrees, but that's not actually a frost. You know, the roots, the soil, they're not frosted. When you get down, I think it's 29 Fahrenheit, that's where you consider it a hard frost. And that's where everything that's not frost hardy, it's gonna be dead. We're not talking about like damaged leaves, we're talking about like dead. So the last thing that's still in the garden that needs to be harvested right after or right before our first hard frost are my sweet potatoes. So they're still going crazy over there. Kevin actually dug up a couple and they look way better than when I dug up that first few and got like nothing. Let me show you what he got. So Kevin wasn't even digging up plants. He was just clearing out the rows that these were not planted in. So these are like extra offshoots. And look how good that is. It's not cracked, it's a great size. So this gives me hope that there are actually good sweet potatoes in those rows. So we're gonna be digging those up here this week as well. So we need to get the dahlias, the ginger, and the sweet potatoes out of the ground and really prepare this garden for winter. Okay, so this is funny to me. If you look at this sea of sweet potatoes, you'll actually notice some tomato plants like randomly growing up the middle. Okay, but that's largely due to birds who have carried tomatoes from our like production squares over here into that space, which I think is so funny. Because it's always random to like look at this sea of sweet potato vine and then all of a sudden there's like a giant tomato growing up out of it. I did want to walk over here and check on my figs though. So he is loaded, but unfortunately I do not think that we have enough time left in the season for these to actually ripen. So that's a bummer. I'm not really sure why these were so late to grow, but yeah, there's so many. There's got to be at least a dozen on here. Bummer. Another project that's on our list sometime this fall is to go down to the blueberries up front, and they're just kind of overtaken by weeds right now. I want to weed whack really good around them and then deep mulch around them so that there's actually no grass growing down there. That's something we kind of put on the back burner. Really, I didn't care about production this year. I just wanted to get those plants in the ground and let their roots to start to get established. They all look alive and healthy. They just didn't have much production because they're being overtaken by weeds, but that's on our list. So we'll definitely bring you with us as we do that this fall. Again, I'm kind of disappointed in the figs that there's so much fruit, but it's not going to ripen before our frost. I'm going to have to do some research. I don't know why. Maybe it's that I got them in the ground just this year, so they took some time like adapting. I'm not entirely sure. So I'll look into that. But they all look really healthy again. So I didn't expect fruit this year. It's the first year we've had them in the ground, obviously, because it's the first year we've owned this property. So I expected most if not all of our fruit bushes and trees, I expected them to just be spending their time this year establishing and growing. In fact, most of them, that's what we wanted them to do. We didn't even want them to set fruit this year. So the ones that have set fruit or set fruit at like the wrong time, it's a little bit discouraging because I'm like, wait a second, but I hope that you know that usually you should set fruit in the summer. But we'll just keep an eye on it. I'm happy that they're growing though and that everything is alive. In the next couple of years, like these are the investments in years to come, right? Like it's not really an investment in this year or even next year. We knew that by planting fruit trees and by planting all of the berries that we were gonna be a while until we got a really substantial harvest, but that's why it's worth it. You know, they always say it's better to put, like, when's the best time to plant a fruit tree? And people say 7 years ago. Well, this is why. The other day I was over here trying to figure out why the cats were rolling in that bush. Then I realized it was catnip. All right, so this is one of our sunflower heads that we let dry. And look at these. These are all sunflower seeds. I'm actually gonna take these and spread them over here. And just like that, it's time to put the garden away. It's super bittersweet, but feels good. I mean, it's the perfect temperature, so how could it not? Okay, so I got, look at that. I got all the weeds and the mulch cleared off of that, and now I'm going to plant this entire bag. It's 1 ounce of spinach seeds. So I'm gonna sow these super thick. My goal is to harvest it as young spinach. I'm gonna put a frost cloth over this once we start getting like considerably cold, like into those heavy frosts. But for now, I'm just going to sprinkle these and hope that it is warm enough in the day over the next few days for them to germinate. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm just gonna go like tamp them down. That's Lord. I'm gonna go tamp them all down and just get them like lightly covered. I might even go maybe I'll just grab a scoop of compost instead. That sounds like a better idea. There we go. So we ended up going with a new compost place for our fall garden and then for next spring. So this compost is actually a mix of compost and sand, and some like different organic materials, and it's specifically suited for our growing region. So we're hoping it's gonna be a lot better. I haven't done a soil test on it. I always say I'm gonna do that and then I never actually do it. Maybe in the spring I'll do it. But I'm gonna go ahead and just use a thin layer to cover up these spinach seeds. All right, so that's it. The spinach is in the ground. Hopefully, everybody cross your fingers with me that it actually germinates this time and that we have some spinach through the winter. So spinach is kind of cold hardy. It'll tolerate light frost, but once you get down into like the deep frost, or that heavy frost, then you really need to provide some kind of protection. So if you just put like a frost sheet over it, it'll grow just like lettuce all the way through the winter. So that's my plan. It's my plan with the lettuce too. Also, I haven't done anything with all of those mustard greens yet. I need to do something with that, but that's that. Now I need to go over and plant the cilantro. So if you didn't know, cilantro is a cool weather herb. So a lot of people make the mistake of planting cilantro in their summer garden and like having all of these dreams of wonderful salsas and like all of this stuff fresh out of the garden in the summer, and then they realize that their cilantro bolts immediately and they get none of that. So if you're not already, make sure you plant some cilantro this fall, so that you can preserve some and have it with your salsa next summer. All right, so my plan was to plant the cilantro right here today, but I think instead I'm gonna rip out these nasturtiums and then let this soil sit for a couple days and then go ahead and put those in. So I will not plant that cilantro today. I'm gonna put these back in the garage. This is just out of control though. This nasturtium has taken over, it was one seed. It's taken over everything and it's dropping its seed pods. I see him now. So he's gotta go. Oh my gosh, I mean, I was trying to creep up on him, but he just gave me a heart attack as I was doing that and he jumped at the camera. But he's not supposed to be in my asparagus. Get out of there, you little garden kitty. Come here. Ah! Wait, he's purring. You say hi? Basil. Go find time. All right, I gotta finish tearing that out, but I'm gonna leave you guys here for today. Looks like the family is done with the chores.
Do the seeds.
I already planted them, girl. Actually, I'm gonna put those back in the garage. Can you go put those in the garage for me?
I'm gonna plant these ones.
Well, go give them to Daddy. We're not quite ready yet. Friends, thank you for joining me today in the garden. You always have a space here. Until next time.